Flight crew, please prepare for takeoff. At this time, I'm going to ask that you fasten your seatbelts.
Well, I'm excited and I'm curious because you said there's so much to share.
Okay, so I didn't send you. I was rushing through because I had a call first thing, but I'm going to send you something right now. Let's see.
I'm gonna check it on my phone.
Purpose spreadsheet. I'm sending it. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
I think you already sent it to me. Or
but wait, I filled it out. So much more. So
I have to wait for it.
yeah, I'm okay. I just hit send.
Yeah.
So and then I'll open it myself. I'm a little overwhelmed, to be honest with you. It's so much. So I went to the
share if you want.
I went to what's that?
You can screen share if you want.
Yeah, we can do that totally. Went to Kim's call last week, and it was all about purpose. And so she went through everything that she looks at when a client wants to look at their purpose. And I thought it was fascinating, and it ties to the nodes.
Yeah, especially when we watched the Leanne Wolf video, right?
Right. So, she's not really big into type, because she says that Ra made that up as like a teaching tool, that it wasn't part of the original transmission. What she prefers to look at is what centers or defined or undefined. And basically it's, the underneath of type, right? So,
yeah.
But there is type, and then channels what's fixed and what's not. And so I have the 4130. So I did the research there. I kind of just collected, and I was collecting from Richard's circuitry book and Cheaton Parkin's book of lines. And through this whole process, I realized that I really resonate. While I appreciate Cheaton's specificity, how specific he is and how he really drills down, I resonate more with Richard's narration. So I started with Cheaton's book of lines, and then I kind of switched over. But I have this channel, the 4130, and what's interesting about what Kim says is that she talks about how if the channel is, I have your chart up on my screen. Sorry. If the channel is all black, say, then that's something you can know with your personality, that you can actually see. Right. And if it's all red, then that's something you learn through the experience of life over time, and you start to know it through time and experience. But both of my channels are shared, red and black. So part of it I can see, and part of it I experience over time, even though that's, working together. I'm just making it so you can see all on one screen. You can see how I have design in the 63 and personality in the 4. So I can actually see the 4 at work in my life, and I come to know the 63 over time. And I can see the 41 at work through my personality, and other people can see it. But I live my 30 and come to know it over time. which that 30 is my south node,
Mhm.
which is so fascinating, right? And
It's kind of the same figuration that I have with the 35, 36, because my 35 is my south node design,
mhm.
and my 36 is my personality moon,
Wow.
my attraction sphere. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there is, and so both I have the 30 South Node design, and then I have the 4 North Node personality as
North.
there are two of the nodes are in my
Yeah.
2 channels, which is so powerful, right? So then there's that, that layering of emphasis. It's almost like it's got a little asterisk mark.
Nice.
So then she, and then part of what I was looking at was that, oh, my channel, the 4130 is collective. And then my 463 is also collective. So, to really think about those gates, those channels as collective circuits. So it really, no wonder I enjoy working with groups.
Yeah.
It's collective, right? So
Yeah. And it's funny because mine are also collective. Duh, that's why we're together.
yeah, and then to think about that in the broadest sense, right? It doesn't necessarily mean I'm holding groups, or like we had that whole conversation on groups. And yeah, if I'm invited, it works really well, but I'm not consciously initiating groups. I'm just waiting for invitations, and like yours. Then I was thinking about what you and I do through these videos.
That is collective. It's for everyone.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. And what's so beautiful about that is that you and I both have our culture spheres or line 2s.
My
So
culture is a line 6.
oh, yours is a 6, mine is a 2.
Yeah.
So with my line 2, I'm working with you. We have these conversations. You put them up. It was your vision.
Right. And you were excited about it because the second line has to be excited about it in order to bring it to the public, or bring it to the third line. And then the third line goes to the fourth line. But it's by you seeing me, so to speak, seeing my vision, like, oh, that sounds lovely. Let's go for it. And then who knows what happens and who comes along and might want to join or whatever.
And I love that there, it was just kind of a natural evolution, right? That we were just enjoying ourselves, and then
want to have some fun.
Right.
What do you have in your vocation? What number? Line number?
I have
Let's see. It's your Mars.
pull it up so we can actually see it.
Oh, I would love to know your Godhead as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, you've got a 6th line there. That's so cool. In your vocation, I have a 1st line in there. So there you hold the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So limitation, realism, justice there, 60.2. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, and then the line 6, you're right, in my vocation. So
both in our pearls we have a 6th line.
So you wanted to see
Your Godhead. I don't know much about it. I read about it, about mine, but I'm just curious. Oh, you've got Harmonia too. But you are predominantly Prometheus, of course.
Why do you say predominantly? Oh,
because it says on the top, but It's funny. I see that with my chart as well, that there are so many that light up. So for me, it would not be logical that Prometheus is your personal Godhead, because it says 3 in your personality, a total of 3, but the Harmonia and the Thoth
Right.
are 4 together. So I feel you were kind of a mix of the keeper of the wheels with Thoth and Harmonia.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? I haven't really looked at that. We'll have to, maybe we can have a study
Next
it a bit and
time.
then have a conversation about what we find out. That would be super cool. You
Yeah.
want to look at yours?
Oh, sure. It's so cool that you have everything for me. Oh, look at
Wow,
me.
that's
I've got
fascinating.
Prometheus too.
That's a 5.
But
Then
still,
the
it says
Harmonia down
Harmonia.
here is a 2. I wonder how they're
Yeah,
determining that. We'll have to do some study into that and look at it.
absolutely. I have some information about it because it fascinated me, because everything that is mystical, I just want to know, right?
Yeah.
So I bought the Harmonia one, and I bought one that's Michael, because that's my daughter, and my husband is the Christ.
Oh wow, Christ.
So yeah.
That's cool. Okay, well, maybe I'll buy the I'm Prometheus, but I would also want to buy the Thoth and the Harmonia to see.
Harmonia you don't have to buy, you can get it from me.
Oh, okay,
You know,
cool.
sharing
Cool,
is
cool.
caring.
Yeah, sharing is caring.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then let me go back to so then she talked about, okay, then your carnation cross, so I'm the right angle cross of consciousness. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of that.
Yeah.
And then she talked about the ascendant, and I am the 21.1, which is one of the few gates that I have a line 1 in. And this, what Richard has in his circuitry book for me, I mean, this was like a textbook reading of me. People who must be material independent and who thrive when given control, need and gift for being in control of things in their life, especially money, food, territory, and lifestyle. Managing director of the company, and best when in control of situations. Don't enjoy anyone else telling them what to do. Can't successfully assume control unless they're offered it first. This for me was so powerful because in my career, when I was a faculty member, one of there were, I was really aware of why that career suited me, because I had control over my schedule. So as my life changed, I could change my schedule. Like when my kids were in school, I had to get up and get them to school really early. So I taught morning classes. But then once they had cars and I wasn't responsible for getting them to school by 7, or, picking them up from football in the afternoon or whatever sport they were playing, then I didn't want to teach that 8:30 in the morning class. I wanted, and then later I even, and also I was invited to be, first it was lead faculty, then I was voted to be department head. I was always asked to be or apply for some leadership role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, I knew that having control over my schedule and how my life worked was so important to me, that I could do anything as long as I had control over the timing of it,
Right.
And I'm thinking about that in terms of being a projector, how important that was to me, regulating my inflow and outflow, being able to create a schedule that worked with my natural rhythms was so, so, so important.
Yeah, and you have the 5-35, and the 5 is the natural rhythm of life. So it totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So thinking about those layers, right?
Right.
And then even now, I mean, in retire, you know, I'm not, you know, I've retired from my full-time career, if you will, but my new career, I do a lot of different things. You know, I still teach online. I edit. I have my clients, but I get to control when I do all those things. You know, when I edit, an author will talk to me about timing, and we'll set up certain days, and then I know ahead of time I'm going to be, this block of time is, you know, I'm going to be focused on this book. And then, you know, teaching online, there's a, you know, I get to set when the assignments are due. So then I know when I'm going to need to chunk out time for grading. And then I know how to book my clients based on this whole structure. So I have this control over my schedule that is been really life affirming.
Yeah, because you get to feel when you see it in front of you, because I know you like the schedules and all these kinds of spreadsheets and stuff. So I really feel that this is giving you the control. It's the sort of an oversight that you have, like, okay, this will cost me this amount of energy. So knowing yourself within your body, or even maybe day by day, you can feel like, how much space is there left? You know, how much energy do you have left for the rest of that day? Yeah.
Yeah. And then to think about, we've had conversations about projectors and energy and access to energy. And I've said I've had a lot of energy in my life. And I think because I knew how to structure my world, I was able to do so, you know, people would say, I don't know how you get everything that you do done. And I was just having fun.
Right.
And I was just enjoying myself, right? Focusing on what I loved doing. So it didn't feel like work, but I could actually see, wow, I do get a lot accomplished, but I figured out how to structure things. So it didn't require, you know, a lot of, I could do things smart instead of hard.
Right.
Early on in my career, I figured out, my colleagues sometimes would ask me, how do you do that? I go, I work smart, not hard. And
That's a
like,
good one-liner.
I work smart, not hard. Okay, so I'm guiding, right?
Right.
Here's how you can do it if you want to. You know, like, but some people really enjoy working hard, and that's, you know, like if I had all those motors and I wanted to expend all that energy, you know, working smart might not be the fun thing. You know?
Yeah, I can see that with people that have a lot of sacral activations. You know, they really are the boss. They need to work. It almost seems like they can't rest, that they feel restless. There is this energy that needs to be released, and that's why they love to work.
Right.
Yeah, but I only have, you know, one channel in my sacral, so I kind of feel like I was a very hard worker, but ever since my burnout, you know, of course, I had to regenerate from it, and it took a few years. But well, maybe it's related to the 2145, because 45 is my evolution. And it is in my south node, in my design side. And maybe, where was I going? It has to do with that I'm also kind of in control now of my own agenda, and I don't like the online agendas. You know, people send you like, if you go to this link, then you can put your you know, what day you want and what time, and then they say, if you send me yours, I can add mine to yours, and I go like, no, I've got this little agenda and I'm old-fashioned. I just write it down, and to be honest, I don't want more than one appointment a day.
No, I'm with you. I understand. Yeah. I understand. And I want to, because there's the truth in the moment for me. Right. When a client is asking me for an appointment, I know that client, or I don't, you know, or it's someone new, and I'm
Right.
scanning what I already have in my schedule.
Right.
And I know, like, my body goes here or here.
Right.
And then I send them those 2 dates and times, you know,
Right.
here or here.
Yeah. So
Because
how are you on spontaneous things? So if somebody just calls you today and says, like, let's do this right now, how would you respond to that? Or how would you,
I just
and it's
kind of
funny
go
because I
into
say
my,
respond because that's my thing, but
yeah.
for you it's
No,
different.
I feel into
Yeah.
it, you know,
Yeah.
and I feel into it, like, you know, my yesterday, a perfect example was yesterday, my friend Elizabeth, who's lived with us for over 2 years, she moved into her own place, super exciting for her.
Wow. Yeah.
And I haven't seen it. And so she messaged me yesterday morning and said, I would love for you to be able to come see my place before you leave next Saturday, because I'll be traveling for a while. And what she was like, when can you come over? And I just felt in, and I got today's the day. So I wrote back, oh, I could come in today, you know.
Mm. So again, it comes back to the solar plexus. Does it feel right? Because that's your only motor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it felt so great to go. And interestingly enough, my day was completely open. I was going to actually look at the nodes and continue looking at this and watch some more videos. But I was like, oh no, I'm going to go be with my friend today. And we had a lovely time. It was really beautiful. So then the next thing she said she looks at is midheaven. And I have the 58.3. This is all personality. I haven't even gotten to design yet, because I mean, all this takes time. Contemplation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's what I can see. I haven't even gotten to my design yet. So the 58.3, the joyous, the gate of vitality, again, collective logic, people with a love of challenging authority simply for the joy of the challenge, have a zest for life which manifests a drive to improve things in the world around them. Challenge conditioning, rooted in being satisfied in the now. Without the 18, these people whose love of life makes them desperate to be of service in some wider way feel the pressure of needing to commit their energy to a process, but their own do not possess on their own, they do not possess the awareness of how improvements can be made. If they follow their strategy, they will naturally draw the 18s to their life.
I've got 18. Whoop, whoop, yeah, fish me in.
I do challenge conditioning, and I feel like through, you know, I wasn't, I'm gonna make sure this is personality. Did I speak correctly? 58.3. Let's see, I'm up 58.
It's in your ascendant, and I don't believe that's on this chart.
It's not on this chart.
No.
Because I think that the way I lived my life was challenging to many people. Just the way I existed, even with my kids, you know, I was always very upfront with my kids, and I did expect them to be kind and respectful of others, but in general, they, you know, if they wanted to do something and they asked me if they could do it, I'd say, okay, you know, we talk about it. If I said, I didn't say no a whole lot to my kids. If I did say no, there was a real specific reason, but if they wanted to do something, I generally tried to figure out how they could do it, or just let them go outside and do it, you know?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, you know, that's not how, I mean, you know, my kids are in their 40s now, so we're talking about in the 80s. That's not really how a lot of people lived, you know, there were rules and
Well, maybe not
punishment.
with you. I wish you were my mother.
Yeah, no, I was like a really liberal mother, you know,
Yeah.
like
And why does she, or why did she go into the nodes and then with the ascendant? Did she give a specific reason?
she was just saying that when somebody wanted to work with her to look at purpose in life, these were all the things that she would layer in. You know, we've been talking about weaving, and I thought it was fantastic because, well, the ascendant, you know, that's where you're rising. Of course, that would make sense with purpose, and then I can see, wow, it's exactly how it was. And then the midheaven, there's the sun. You know, this is the light shining on your life. You know, it's like a big beacon. It makes sense to me that, you know, to consider this in the weaving of purpose. It is not just your design, you know, your sun and your earth, life's work and purpose, that all of these things kind of factor in.
Yeah, I do have it in my book, but to be honest, there's so much to look at that I didn't really go into the ascendant yet. I know by head it's like the 59, and I also have the 29 over there. It's funny. So your midheaven is at 29?
No, my nodes. So my north node and then my south node, which we're going to talk about later. So I don't want to spend all that time on. Then she talked about Saturn in relationship to Uranus, the north node, Chiron, and Jupiter.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, those are some interesting things to consider with your purpose, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's the 60.1, which is also my, we just looked at it. Well, I have the 60.2 in my culture.
Yeah.
So then there's the 60.1, but the 60 again, a theme, you know.
It's interesting.
People with potential to bring lasting changes into the world. I feel like I did that with my career as a faculty member. I was often asked to lead kind of paradigm shifting initiatives. But also I feel like this happens with my clients. Because they'll tell me how our work together shifts them, and then how they shift in their whole world. Well, you know, that's part of the fractal, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like also this relates to, we were talking about structure and patterns, bringing something totally new into the world. And we've talked about how I feel like part of my gift is to be able to see the end and how to create a structure that will help us experience success.
Yeah. And that goes along, I feel, with the cross of consciousness. Yeah. You know why? Because it just comes to me, and it came before, it's that our whole lives are patterns and cycles for everyone. So this is a collective thing for life itself. And if you're able to recognize and see how the cycles and the patterns of how people do and be, and then weaving it with the cycles in life and the cycles even of those hundreds of years and the mutation that is coming. Wow, if you become aware of all that, I kind of feel my head explodes.
Right?
Yeah.
Another thing that was interesting about the 60 is this is what Richard says, the top part, and then the bottom part is where I have 60.1 is where the information from Cheaton's book, but the part of the challenge is to learn to wait for the right moment without knowing when it will come. to even what it will bring, and that while waiting for the next gear shift in life, you can be melancholic. But when you feel this most limited, that's when the mutation is occurring, like a butterfly in a chrysalis. And when I was contemplating this one as part of my purpose, one of the moments that really stuck out for me is Trey and I had built our dream home. And it was really, he always wanted to live out in the country and own land. And he worked away, and I was often by myself with the kids, and I didn't want to do that. And then when our kids graduated, or, they were in the process of graduating from high school and their first years in college, we found this property, and we built our dream home. We moved in at Christmas. So that's interesting, because I think we moved in like 2 weeks from right now. And after we moved in that spring, January, February, and March, I found myself just kind of sitting. I felt so blessed to have this amazing view, because we were at the foot of the Rincon Mountains, and there's this beautiful valley, and then the Rincon Mountains before us. And there are very few houses between me and the mountain in this valley, just very few people. We were really out in the country. And in the morning, I would get up and I would look out the window, and I was just so in awe of this view. And I would wake up, just sitting at the table, and I would look around. I'm like, how long have I been sitting out here just contemplating this view? And hours would have passed. Wow. And this kept happening. And at night when Trey would get home and he'd say, "What did you do today?" I'd say, "Well, before I went to work, I sat and looked at the desert for 3 hours." And then eventually I said, I must be preparing for something, because there's some reason I need this stillness in my life. And I don't know what it is, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but I have this feeling that I'm preparing for something that's going to require me to dig into this well of energy. And I feel like I'm building energy in the stillness for something. Yeah. And then on March 28th of that year, our son was in a serious car accident. And, that began a 2-year journey and over 30 surgeries with him, and he lost his vision. So it took me those 3 months to just be in the stillness. And I remember him being in the hospital and somebody saying something to me. He was in the ICU and he was still in a coma. And I said, I'm the perfect mother for him in this moment. Yeah. And he's going to make it, because I'm going to be here with him. When I read this, I was like, wow. Yeah. One of the great contracts in my life is that experience with my son.
Wow, you really role modeled what a gift is. Wow. Yeah. And I feel the acceptance in it right now, the acceptance of what is, not knowing up front, but you just gathering energy, or in the root. It's this pressure cooker, like I said last time. So you were building pressure, but you didn't know for what. And then when it happened, you were ready inside to hold it all. What was, going to, what the process would be for the next coming years, and the rest of your life, of course. But
yeah, and to not, I think that I love, one of the books I love about the Akashic record is the guy wrote 2, I think his name's Dave, with Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift. And he talks about the things in life that happen and that are at the soul level planned, and that from the outside people might see, oh, you lost your vision, how horrible. But we always saw it as a gift. We knew that this was going to help our son live his best life somehow, that the road wouldn't be easy, but this was the life he chose, you know, at the soul level.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, how does that unfold? And you know, that's probably the most striking in my own life. So will that pattern reappear as a cycle throughout my life? I don't know. But I know that there have been times where I've been able to sit in the stillness, knowing that there's a reason, you know, and so really surrendering to that experience, right?
Yeah.
And then let's see, why do I have oh, maybe the 29 is my other Saturn gate, so it's probably my design Saturn. Oh my gosh, this one was, so my name's Simone. When I was growing up, my nickname was C, which I didn't understand that was the Spanish yes until I moved to Tucson.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh my
I mean,
God.
I grew up being conditioned to the yes by just my nickname.
Just my name, which is a frequency, you know, words are frequencies. Wow.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
So when I got to this, I was like, oh wow, you know, as a design, Richard's saying the people with the power to commit themselves to a process without the need to know where it will take them. This is the gate of commitment and saying yes to life. When the sacral response from this gate, it's saying yes to a whole new cycle of life. Well, I mean, even when we look at the 29 and the 60 together, the experience I just shared with my son.
I was thinking exactly the same. I was like, wow, the 60 came first, and then your 29 kind of took over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love that he says that to be wary of overcommitting out of conditioning. I think that's something I've really had to learn over time, that, you know, in my life, I've been the person, if I make a commitment, I complete that commitment.
Yeah.
And ending a recent commitment that you were involved in, you know, that was challenging for me to end. That was one of the first times, it wasn't the first time, but it was one of the first times that I ended a commitment before it got to the end, because I knew that was the
right thing to do.
Continue would be to continue in conditioning.
Right.
And
so you said yes to yourself.
Right.
You said yes to your life.
Yep. And I love how Richard says we're here to learn to distinguish between what's worth committing and what is not.
Right.
And to have no preconceived notions about what that commitment will bring. I love that, because that's generally how I can see that in myself, that I've often said yes to a journey, an adventure, and, you know, when it felt right in my body to say yes, and to trust that with not knowing what would happen.
Right.
It's been some of the best experiences of my life. It really is a philosophical way of being within me, you know.
Yeah.
And learning that I don't, you know, that experience, a big experience last year of ending something that I knew needed to end because it was a yes to me, was challenging, but it was also correct, you know.
Yeah.
I think another thing that helped me with that too is reading with you last year when we were doing well, you had already done it, but you were sharing with me the open centers, and that Ra looks at line 3, and bonds made and broken, bonds made and broken, bonds made and broken, bond. We're here to make bonds and break them.
It's the experimental way. So that's why you just try something, and when it doesn't work, you go bye. It's that simple.
I mean, so empowering, right?
Yeah.
That is you know.
I have a lot of 3 lines, so I totally get that. I have a lot of bonds
I
made and
thought
broken.
about it, right? Because if somebody makes a commitment to me and then they call me and say, hey, I can't do it, I'm always like, no worries. Thanks for
Right.
being honest. You know, I'd rather you be honest and in your
Me too.
truth and continue on and, you know, be resentful, you know. That's not gonna do anybody any good, you know.
No.
So
And it has no point, because no matter what the reason, if it's truth or not that they can make it or not, it is a moment that they don't feel they want to spend time with you. Either way. Even if it's an excuse or if it's real, there's no time for you in that moment. So all perfect.
all good.
Yeah, all good.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think if we could been having conversations with clients and friends for whom the concept of or what they're facing in their own lives is where in their life love is transactional and where in their life love is unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that relates to this.
Yeah, because the other side of the 29 is the 46. It's the delight and seriousness and delight. So yeah, if you take it all, I even feel like if you take it too personal, you take it too serious, there's no delight. Yeah.
There's no delight. And if it's transactional, somebody's not going to be in delight.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But to be unconditional in your yes, and when it, you know, when the energy's not there, to have the, it really does take courage.
Yeah.
To say, you know,
There's no energy today. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get what you mean, because I had an appointment 2 weeks ago for my second singing class, and I don't know, I was still tired of the BMW experience. And my emotions were in a low because I gave so much energy on the day. And even though it was 2 days past, I felt a no. And I was like, oh, but you know, again, then you get that monkey in your mind saying, but you can't do that. You know, you have an obligation, you have a commitment, you made a commitment, you said yes. But I said no to the monkey in my head. And I said, no, I want to choose me. And I'm just going to send it to her that it doesn't feel right. I literally just said, it doesn't feel right today for me. So I couldn't be even more honest. And it's up to her if she would take it personally or not. But she didn't.
Yeah.
Because then I said, well, let's schedule for over 2 weeks, you know, giving myself space and time to feel again, or to give my wave time to go up again.
Right. And then to be in the beauty of the moment of when you arrive for your next singing lesson.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, you have the 55?
Yeah, in my north, my north node. Wait, no. Oh, my Chiron.
Oh, wow.
Let me change the setting on this.
The wounded healer.
Yeah, my Chiron.
Interesting.
And right where I'm living, you know, I did the astrocartography to live here, and this place that I'm living in, I have the impact of Jupiter, my Chiron, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and there's one other one. So yeah, so even geographically where I am, you know, I have Chiron's influence. So
how does that feel when you read about it?
Wow, I was
because you kind of already went through your Chiron return.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting. I can be melancholic at times, or maybe I used to be. I don't, you know, I see moments of stillness in my life. Is that melancholic? I don't know. You know, I'm not really musical. I love all kinds of music, but mostly I don't have music playing. I like quiet. Romantic, maybe.
Maybe. That's so funny. Sorry.
So if we think about what are the keynotes of Chiron, the wounded healer, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think of when you think of Chiron?
When I think of Chiron, it's the wound that never gets healed for yourself, but you can help others with it. That's in real short. So it will always give a certain pain, but you know how to live with it, and because you know it, you can really be of service to others with it and help heal their wound with, in your case, the 55, with the abundance.
Well, that kind of is interesting, you know, from that point of view. How do I help others? This emotional highs and lows, I think more so, we've talked about this. I think when I was living my line 3, part of my 6th line, I had more highs and lows. I tend to, you know, not have to go way up here to learn or way down here to learn. Not that I resist it.
Or maybe I can assist with the contemplation, because
Yeah.
I know what is, because Richard wrote like, I believe 10 pages about the 55 and the 22nd. These are both very special in the gene keys. And the 55, the shadow is victimization. And when you see the list of, to check for somebody who has the 55, like in their sun or the earth or any other place, it's like a huge list in which they can see themselves being victimized, like, oh, it happened to me, and why me again, you know, really, and they did it to me, you know, always pointing outwards instead of looking at themselves. And when I think of the gate of spirit, I think about when people say, that's the spirit, you know.
Yeah, I think that's been a big part of my life. I'm the consummate cheerleader. I'm always cheering people on.
Right.
But I do know that I've worked through cycles of victimization. You know, that was a theme that I had to explore in my life. And it's not my come from now. Things happen. I see my
so
role.
maybe it's you have been hurt, so you have felt how it is to be victimized, and that's how you can assist others when they come to you with like, this happened to me and why me, and and these people are doing such and such and that's not fair. And maybe because you now know where the victimization comes from, you can assist them with that wisdom. But you have been hurt, you have been victimized in your past,
and victimized others, you know, like
yeah, maybe
I
too.
I own that whole waveform, you know.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Can you, I would love to hear how you, I don't know why, maybe it's not a nice question, but I do mean it well, you know me. How do you feel like, can you give an example of how you feel you victimized somebody else?
well, here's how I work through it. I can do it like this. So when I realized that, it was probably around the time of my Chiron return, I'd have to go back and look at the days. I remember, here's how I kind of came consciously into this contemplation. So there was a person in my life, and I, you know, like many people, I saw her soul and how amazing it was, and included her a lot in my life. And she was at our home for dinner a few times with a group of people. And afterwards, Trey, my husband, partner, said to me, I don't like the way she speaks to you. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he gave me the example, and I said, you know, that's not about me. That's about her. I don't get upset by that because I know what she's doing is that's a reflection of her own pain.
Right.
And so she strikes out at me, tries to make me small. But did you notice that I didn't bite? Like, I didn't feel provoked by that. And he said, no, you didn't. I did notice that, but I don't like it when someone disrespects you in that way. And I said, duly noted, you know, like, okay. And it happened a few times, and about the third time he noticed, he said, if you don't say something, I'm going to say something. I said, I don't really need to say anything because really it's not about me. Now, I could have gone to victim energy.
Yeah.
This person is attacking me or putting me down in a group. I could have felt whatever, but for some reason I was really grounded and I knew that it really wasn't about me. But then that got me contemplating about victim energy as a pattern in my life. And I started just contemplating the arc of my life, and I could see, oh, like I had been in this huge relationship of victim energy, and I ended it. I got off the merry-go-round of it. But then the universe brought me another one, and it took me, like, I could literally track them. So it was like this long, this long, and this long, and this long, and this long, you know. So I was aware of this pattern playing out in my life. And I was also aware that as soon as I noticed it, I ended it.
Wow.
Because I didn't want to be in that energy.
Right.
So here's the last time it happened, I was walking into my office at work, and there was a temporary, someone who had gotten promoted and somebody else had taken a temporary assignment. It was right when I walked in my office building door, here was this person. And so she asked me a question, and I had already done it, like had already done what she'd asked me to do. And I had replied immediately. And it was almost like she was telling me I hadn't done my thing. So I could have gone to victim energy, right? And in a second, when she asked me the question, like it all happened so fast. Right. I felt lightning fly. Like this person asked me a question and I feel lightning fly out of my head. Like, holy moly, I had a bunch of stuff in my arms. I opened my door and I put the stuff down, and I immediately walked outside and I stood under a tree and just grounded myself. And I was like, what is this energy? What is this the energy of? It struck me. It was victim energy. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was, I was ho'oponoponing, myself, thinking of myself every place I was I felt like I was a victim. I was ho'oponoponing it. And then under this big, magnificent tree that happened to be, it was a big Palo Verde tree, and it was in bloom. It was full of yellow bloom. So like standing in this golden flame, right? Wow. And I'm just, ho'oponoponing, victim energy. But then as I did that, I had the realization that, oh, you haven't just played victim, you've also victimized other people. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I ho'oponopono victim energy, and then I ho'oponopono victim is, victimizing other places, people. Right. And it didn't have to be I had this awareness, it didn't have to be people in this lifetime that we could be, and I didn't need to identify it all. I just need to be aware that own the whole waveform, heal the whole waveform. When I was victim, when I was victimizer, in every lifetime.
Right. Wow.
in every dimension, in every vibration, in every space consciousness, because I had this deep awareness that I don't need to learn from that anymore.
Right.
You know, I can make a conscious choice. It doesn't make me a victim.
Wow.
You know, I don't need to victimize anybody else. And so since that moment in time, that really, it's not been the thing I've learned from. At least I don't think so, you know. Maybe I'm fooling myself.
No, it's so interesting, because when we think about patterns and cycles and how humanity treats one another, while in all honesty, we are all just a particle of God, you know, we're all the eyes of God. So you are me, but in that case, we are all the perpetrator and the victim in one. And yeah, I think we're all doing it unconsciously, because now you got me thinking like, okay, who did I victimize? You know, I have the 55 somewhere in my ascendant or midheaven or somewhere over there. And I know victimization. I felt a victim a lot, but then I saw my accountability and responsibility in it, that I chose to be a victim. Because it's all a matter of perspective, and it's all a matter of how many triggers you still hold, how many healing you need. And ever since I went on my exploring spirituality consciousness journey, that all starts fading away, because you get to see the whole. Yeah. So wow.
Yeah. So you know, that's I did the one part of what Richard was saying that I really resonated with is, if you wait out your emotional wave, your own or someone else's, you will always have a clear perception of any situation. I feel like that's been true for me, and that's been a learning curve for me. That I mean, I can use Trey and I as an example. Trey might be triggered by something, and I'm listening, and I'll know when I'm in my feminine, when I'm really grounded in the divine feminine, I know there's a divine timing of when to speak. I can just hold that, okay, he or whoever else is in their womb, and it's not the moment for the lesson, right? It's not to come back. It's just, but when I'm really grounded in my feminine, the divine timing, I don't even plan. It's like, it just comes out of my mouth in the most perfect moment. We circle back around, and whatever springs from me is the thing that he or whoever else can hold, because it comes out with grace, I guess. And you know, clearly the emotional wave has wisdom. So it's not something I plan, but what I do know is when I experience, oh, this person is the one, I just hold them. This isn't the moment.
Wow. I hear the wisdom of your open throat, knowing when to speak. Wow. And you can only do that when you are so cleared or healed already from your own triggers. Yeah.
And then I do love where he says it's deeply acoustic. I can relate to that in that I have clients who will tell me, I felt the truth in the tone of your voice. It just went through me. And I can tell, I feel levels of truth in people through their own tone, you know, through the tone they're saying. I also relate to when he says the gate of fickleness, people with it can appear very sensitive over issues which other people don't understand. I have that, in that somebody might do something and they don't mean anything by it. They're just doing it. But for me, I see the deeper meaning in that, under that act. That
you see the pattern?
So that action is really bigger than just
the action,
the thing done, that there's some pattern underneath that.
Yeah.
And that can make me appear oversensitive, because people will be like, oh, I didn't mean anything by that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
And also, here's what's underneath it,
Right. Yeah.
And then he says that we're not wrong in what it feels like, but don't take it personally.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. Again, these 4 agreements come back.
But then how is that, like thinking about this in view of purpose, what we're here to do?
Yeah. I do have in my book, my personal book, I've written everything down for myself. And I kind of went into this course because I wanted to be prepared for my Chiron, because I have the 42 over there, which is death and endings. So I was kind of afraid. I'm not anymore, but but to relate it to your purpose, well, maybe it is. Well, because it's related to your Saturn as well, which is a limitation. If you don't get through your Chiron, I know you can't heal for yourself, but if you can see that your wound is a gift for others, maybe it even helps you with your limitation. Or when you overcome both, it becomes such a powerful strength, which can strengthen your purpose, or yeah, I'm even hearing the synergy, and this, they can work together on this higher purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't get through our Chiron, if we stay in the shadow, and if we can't overcome our Saturn, what is our purpose? If we're talking about vibrational wise or energy frequency light wise, yeah, like
all of that together, woven together, kind of makes sense, huh?
Yeah. Because I know Chiron and Saturn, I can look it up, but I know by head that Chiron and Saturn. Oh, I have it right here. I have the 42. Let me see. Because then I can give it to, here it is. Chiron, and then here is the. Oh, I wrote a lot about my Chiron.
What do you feel like you learned from your Chiron, or about your Chiron?
Well, I haven't done my homework as much yet, so I'm gonna be honest.
That's okay. That's okay. We can talk about it later.
Yeah. Well, here I found it, Chiron as the rainbow bridge between Saturn and Uranus.
Wow.
And then it says, among many things, Saturn represents societal and institutional norms. It's, I don't have my glasses on, so it's less of a representation of the culture of a society than it is of the conditioning of a society that is reliant on structure. Uranus, much more connected to culture among groups of like-minded people, such as tribal cultures or communities. That makes sense. So Saturn also represents consciousness to the extent that is the organizational aspect of your minds or thinking, while Uranus is considered the superconscious or the collective consciousness. Chiron has been described as the bridge between these two dynamics, bridging this more limiting aspects of your organizational consciousness with the super consciousness. For this, it was coined, and then it stopped.
Well, that's an interesting thing. So how does the 55 for me
Right.
bridge the 29 and the 60? So how do I bridge saying yes and committing and bringing change to the world?
By not saying yes anymore to the victimization?
Yeah. I feel like that's, that example I gave you was my working through that. And I love that. And then Jupiter, who I just really love Jupiter, and living right here on my Jupiter line, the 41.
The start codon. And the 33 is the stop codon.
Yeah, and I have the 33 in my SQ, I think, or no, that's the 36.
And I heard an explanation, I believe, this week. I don't know where it
Yeah,
was.
no, the 33 is my SQ, 33.6.
Yeah.
So I had the start and the stop.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, the 41, the start codon, is like this, where the universe at some point started with just one atom and then exploding or imploding. That's the 41.
Wow.